Hey everybody, welcome to the Tim Kulig Free Music Podcast. I'm your host, Tim Kulig, and I'm here with Tom Seymour. It is Sunday, May.
Hey everyone. Yeah, thanks for having me. Sorry, I did a quick camera adjustment, which now you can't see my Road Blasters
Now
arcade.
I look like I'm shorter than you.
But
I don't like that.
That's not that cool.
So, let me get the elephant out of the room. I got this really loud fucking shirt on today, and yes, I'm swearing right out of the gate, because production, turns out, is like highly stressful sometimes and frustrating and annoying. Getting the lighting set up behind me for my educational freaking content that I'm starting to record is
So
interesting.
just so the audience knows, you're on your backup setup. So you see the lighting, it looks kind of high key right now because we're just podcasting quick and dirty. But behind you is the set with the secondary, the main podcasting area, right?
Yeah, there's a backdrop. I've got two accent lights. One's like red, one's like blue. So it pulls stuff out of my shirt and everything. Like, I'm doing all the things you're supposed to do. You know what I mean? Like, you know, I literally got these things are from, this was some online retailer that's like 100% polyester, and it's from overseas, and we all know what's happening with the overseas right now. So it took a month to get here.
We also know it's really expensive because you pay extra for the more busy the shirt is, the more you pay extra for, right?
Yeah, there was like a 300% upcharge for that, Tom.
Yeah, dude, at Jack Flash's, is that what it was called?
No, wait, what was it?
Dan Flash's?
Dan Flashes. Yeah. This is $300.
Out the door. Out the door. Man.
I think You Should Leave is such a good show.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, some people don't get it. It's kind of like, I don't know, it's like British humor. Some people don't get British humor, but
You have to have a if you overthink, then that show, I think You Should Leave, probably will be hilarious. If you don't overthink things, then
you're like, what is this?
Yeah, you might not get it, but
I'm sorry, I gotta eat in between podcasting and doing more footage shooting.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, don't worry about it. I'm doing the same thing. It's like by the time I got everything I needed to do ready, I'm like, okay, it's lunchtime.
If I don't stack at this point in my life with everything that's going on that we're gonna get into a little bit, I don't think I'd be able to eat. I'd be like emaciated, you know?
Yeah, I mean,
I wouldn't have time.
So talk us through. So the people listening more than likely know that you're on track to have 1,000 songs recorded. You're at 800 plus now. You give the tunes out. They're royalty free. Just need to accredit people. We're both in the process. Tim Kulig Free Music and VHS Massacre we're both brand building. And so some of the stuff you're doing, I don't know, maybe talk to the audience about what exactly you're doing.
Yeah, so over I've only really been super, super serious about this just under 4 years, right? Like, just under 4 years ago, I made the commitment. I'm like, all right, I'm all in. I'm going to go nuts with this. And I'm going to make as much music as I can for as long as I'm capable. And I'm sure I'm going to have ruts and valleys and peaks, which after the first quarter and a half this year, I'm in a really weird burnout stage where I don't really feel creative at the moment, which that happens to me periodically. It just like I'll have a really ambitious schedule, and I'll have a bunch of projects, and I'll drop down a bunch of ideas, and they don't go anywhere because my brain's like, dude, you're tapped, man. You don't, like, creatively, I have nothing else to give you right now, you know? So, but in that journey so far, what I've discovered is that, number one, there's a number of things in the royalty-free music space that aren't being addressed. There's some platform issues, there's some social media issues, there's some navigation issues that, as an early level and an early adopter level content creator, I realized, man, if I was out there starting a page, you know, day one creator day today, I would want some resources on how to navigate the royalty-free music space, because it is a real, I'm not trying to toot my own horn here, but it is like an enhancement to add audio and sonic background to things. You can listen to a podcast that's just dead in the background that has nothing. I mean, I'm literally describing us, but like we don't have musical beds or anything like that. We get the lead in, the lead out, and everything, which incidentally, I still get, you know, hey, you're sharing royalties with the creator on Facebook for that. And I'm like, that's me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's me.
I'm the creator.
I'm the creator.
You flagged me on my stuff. Yeah.
So it's a really weird space right now in like the copyright slash everything, because even as a royalty-free music composer, I own copyright to all my stuff. I just offer it for free to other creators to use in their content. They don't have to pay me anything. But the platforms themselves do. You know what I mean? Like
yeah, that's a really good point though. Like so people realize like what's happening now is like it used to be kind of the Wild West. You put music in, YouTube didn't really track it. If you had some crazy, like, you know, so you had like a Jay-Z song or something, you get flagged because obviously...
Well, their lawyers are all over the place.
Yeah.
They're looking for things in every nook and cranny. But not everybody has those resources.
But people use Tim Kulig and Kevin MacLeod because royalty-free... And it was easy. And for the longest time, it wasn't really registered. It was all copyrighted. They owned the rights to everything, but it wasn't really registered within the apps. But what started happening is people would take certain songs that other people wrote, and they said, well, this is my song. And then they register it, and money would flow to them. So there's all sorts of like fraud going on. And so they have to track everything now, and that's what's happening. So if you have a YouTube channel and you had a Tim Kulig song and it gets flagged, it's no big deal. I think you just got to make sure you have the right language in your YouTube video description.
Simple. My name, website, and the track you're using. That's it.
Yeah, and then it just goes away, right?
Yeah. Well, yeah, exactly. And that's standard. I mean, there's standard things you have to put in notes on YouTube all the time for attribution and stuff. Like if you do like a true crime podcast, or you do anything that references some other piece of work or journalism or something like that, you invariably have to put some kind of reference to that, because it's just like writing I mean, this goes all the way back to going to high school and college. Like, you need to cite your sources, you know? And in essence, that's what we're looking for you to do, is like, you didn't write that music, and the resource that you used just wants that attribution. Because if somebody likes that tune and wants to use it in their content, well, it'd be nice if you could zoom them out to where you got it and basically propagate the person that enhanced your piece of content. You know what I mean? And that's really all it is. And when you're not asking for money up front, it's like that's not a lot to ask, right?
Yeah, no, it's a good point. So tell people now. Can you talk about actually launching the other channel, or?
Yeah, I could talk about it. It's still in the design phases, but it'll literally be another YouTube channel, and then ultimately expand into socials and stuff too. But the focus of it is going to be more on the education side of things. So we're talking, me helping people understand royalty-free music, understanding its place in various spaces online, YouTube, Spotify, with podcasts, any social media platform. How to best utilize that music on those platforms. And then when things come up and problems, I don't like the word problems, like challenges come up where you've got to navigate some new policy that switched over, or some platform switch, or some new platform comes out. And again, like oftentimes with a new platform, it's the Wild West for a while, and then suddenly there's a tamp down because people want to sue everywhere, like upside down ways to Sunday over things. People get squirrely on various platforms. It's me trying to say, like, hey, in addition to, well, here's how you navigate it. Oh, and by the way, here's my catalog. This is the stuff that you can use on here. And if you do the things I talk about, you can use this stuff worry-free. And virtually worry-free. I don't have control over the platforms, and even I, as a royalty-free music composer that has music all over the place, I don't have a lot of control over what the platforms do or don't do, or how to influence their policy making and decisions. Yet I am getting up there as far as an understanding of the platforms and how to navigate them. So that's a good thing. And at this point, I'm starting to get some contacts and everything in those various spaces. You know what I mean? So
tell me about your frustration with this setup, because we were just talking about this. So you're upgrading from, like, mine's sort of a standard, like, single light setup with the background is what it is.
Yeah.
It looks cooler in the wide shot because you see all the arcade games and stuff. But essentially, I'm like very basic. But your setup, so maybe describe the challenges and frustrations.
Oh, sure. So part of it was maintaining a sense of professionalism with it, and oftentimes what you do with that is, create a neutral backdrop that can be modified with different color schemes. So I've got a black gray backdrop. Doesn't look like that with the color bleed that you see right now with the cameras and stuff. But it's like it's a black and gray backdrop basically, and there's 2 accent lights that are colored. So I can enhance the colors in a shirt and pull that into the whole composition of the shot. But I also have accent lights. I've got an accent light off to my left. I've got 2 cans behind me that give me rear light, and I'm eventually going to have a couple more for some other accenting as well. And like they're not expensive, but the concept behind all of it is complicated and it's complex. Like just based on like a 45 versus a side versus an overhead versus like all the different things you can do and the different accents, it gives a different mood entirely. Right?
Yeah, and this is actually like a reason. You could see it in 2 different ways. Like, this is actually a reason why it's not a bad idea to go, if you were really into this, to go into some new media technology program where you can learn a little bit about lighting and post-production. Maybe not a full-fledged film and television, because a lot of that stuff is not going to apply. But basic lighting, key light, that's the main light. When they say backlighting, that's actually supposed to hit the back of your head. It's supposed to be off in the corner. Sometimes it could be a kicker, which is lower, or just a backlight. Then there's set lights. Set lights are lighting the set behind you. And then there's sometimes a fill light. So if you had your key light, you could put it off about 45 degrees or less, really, because it's an art form. So you can break all these rules. And then the fill light would be slightly less light hitting the other side of your face. Or you have the same power. That's called cross keying. That creates a little butterfly under the nose, shadow. Okay. That's why they call it butterfly lighting sometimes. And then there's all sorts of stuff. If you're doing like horror, turn everything out. Just have the backlight on. See what that looks like. You know what I mean?
Right.
So, and then you can add gels in. So it can
be a front gel on the face that's really dark, right? And then have an accent light in the back. And you get this really ominous looking person coming into frame, right?
Yeah, it can be a lot of fun. In your case, you had to do all that setup, and then you had to like hit record and kind of like look at your lines and all that stuff. And that can be. I did that on like probably half a dozen feature-length films where I wrote the thing, I'm lighting the thing, and I'm acting in the thing. And after a certain point, I was like, when we hit like Exorcism of Fleet Marriage, I was like, I'm not doing it anymore.
And it makes sense, Tom, because just doing this myself to create content, I understand why people have a crew. You know what I mean? Reinforces what I knew inherently, intellectually, but now I know it like in my heart of hearts. Like, it's a lot of fucking work.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, and it's better to have extra bodies to help you with this process. It's a lot. But the idea and ultimately the goal of this setup and everything is to give a more professional look to everything, to give more authenticity, more authority to the pieces that come out. Because, I mean, let's face it, social media today, you can get authority with a walk and talk video, or you can get an authority with a studio. But all of us subconsciously think with a refined, finished, polished product that there's money behind something, and which is not untrue, right? There's money and thought and commitment and
effort.
Authenticity behind everything. You know what I mean? And that, to me, I pay closer attention to stuff like that and stuff that keeps my attention. Hence, flashy shirt on the they're like, what the hell? Who's this dude all about? Is this guy from like the 80s that was? Like...
I think it's brilliant. I think it's a brilliant a thing to do, and I like the shirt. I think it's super cool. It's like a turtle shell thing. It's very, dude. No, I mean, as soon as you popped up, I knew exactly what that was. I was like, yeah, that's smart. You'd be like, oh, dude. That's the guy with the shirt. That's the guy with the loud shirts. Awesome, And a lot of those people are like, have their own shtick,
Right. We'll see. See if I can build it, make it work. But I mean, it comes from a place of love. I want to make sure that people aren't as frustrated. People can have a resource to come to and know that they're not alone. Because, dude, it's a very solitary thing building some kinds of content. Like being a single person podcast typically is a very solitary experience, right? The thing that enhances it is when you have guests on, like what we do, You know, that's really important. Then you can pull in the other human element of things, and you're not just a talking head against the screen. You know what I mean? Like, there's a context for that makes sense. Like, if you're doing narrative content where it doesn't require a back and forth, or it's not some assumed audience member you're talking to, and it's just going out there to the ether, like you're doing like some story time thing, or you're doing a D&D podcast or something where you're people know what they're showing up for. You know, it's a different thing too. So I don't know. The point being is that the whole idea behind the education part of things is and it actually is going to educate me in the process too, because there's aspects to this that I still haven't rounded out 100%. And I feel like in the process of learning, if I can learn and teach at the same time, it's going to reinforce it for myself. And by reinforcing it for myself, it creates more authority, creates more authenticity, because I know what I'm talking about. And even if I don't, and somebody calls me out about it, I'm at an age and a personality tenure that I don't have a problem somebody calling me out when I'm wrong about something. And no, dude, you're like very wrong about that, and this is why. It's like, okay, I'm going to do a whole episode about that. Hey, I said this a month ago, and somebody corrected me. I did some research. Good on them. Thanks, John Doe, for helping me out. Appreciate it, you know?
Yeah, it's tough, but yeah, sometimes it's good to just write, good point, leave it alone.
Yeah. No, but there's other times, like if I feel like there's a value in a broader sense to do a bigger piece of content, I absolutely will, you know? Like, because I think that's important too. Well, what do we talk about video dreams?
Okay, so
current statuses.
Video Dreams is our newest documentary. Basically, the tagline is from blockbuster dreams to streaming screens, a filmmaker's journey through a vanishing world. It chronicles about 32 years of filmmaking, and it features Tim Kulig and I, and basically kind of our journey through the decades getting to this point. But it hits heavily on the video store and like that particular point in time when people were discovering the sort of VHS camcorders. They were sort of past their prime, and people were getting them for cheap, and kids were taking them and using the VCR to edit with, you know. So it became more of a middle class common thing, whereas previous to that you really only had Super 8. And
by kids he means us, by the way, because it was
kids of the
us.
Exactly.
At one point we were kids.
Yeah, so it chronicles that. And so anyway, it's a feature-length doc called Video Dreams, and so Tim and I both decided we're going to go in really hard on this thing. So I edited and directed the thing. Tim produced, and most of the music is his, and he's in it. So basically...
Yeah, we basically co-narrate, right?
Yeah, we co-narrate. Yep. Yeah.
There's a few friends that pop in now and again.
Yeah, Debbie Rashawn pops in, and then who else?
With Phil and Mike in there too, I think.
Phil added like one line. No, Phil added a handful of lines, which was kind of cool because I had, it's like cool working with Phil again, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's pretty much it. Debbie, Phil, and then Mike's in there, but a lot of his stuff is pulled from other sources, you know, Aransky's narration. So we entered, I believe we're in 75 film festivals right now.
Yeah, my note said 70 plus, and I know that you'd added like a half a dozen.
Yeah,
since we hit the 70 mark, so it's probably close to 100. Like it's going to be.
It should be.
If that, it'll be just shy of it, I think.
Yeah, and this is the first time. Like, we just decided we're gonna. This is one of the most meaningful things I've done. So I just think personally. So it's like, well, if we're gonna be known for something, let's try to be known for this. Mm-hmm. So that was the decision there. So we entered about I think 60 film festivals. And then I was looking through the different types of film promotions, and I sent something. I paid for a $20 promotion, which is going to happen in June, to just be, if you were a film festival runner, you'd be on Film Freeway. That's where you would get all the submissions. And I paid, I think, $20 2 days for us to pop up in the, like a tab that says project showcase kind of thing. And then you were like, tell me more about this. And I sent you the link, and you're like, dude, you saw the email one, and you're like, we got to do this. So I was like, all right. So we did it. And to date, I believe about 16 or 17 festivals offered us free waivers, 100% free, to enter in there was another 3 or 4 that just didn't seem like a fit. I think basically 20 festivals offered us free waivers. Yeah. Meaning they got the email blast, they saw the project, and they said, we want to see this so much, we'll just send you a full waiver.
Yeah.
Probably another 50 festivals sent reduced submission, 50% off, 60% off. But
and that's not over. Like, they're still trickling in. Right?
They are. They're still. Last night I just got another free waiver. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then come June, which is like coming right up. What's it, next week?
Yeah. Yeah.
We should get another slew of them. We're still holding out for a New York premiere, so we're only entered in like one New York festival, and then if we get into that one, great. If we don't, the day after, I got like 5 or 6 I'm gonna hit hard with it.
Yeah, we have a. I'm clearly not going to mention it at the moment, but we have an ideal one that we'd like to premiere in the New York City area, and then if that doesn't pan out, having another one that it actually shows at, that we can encourage people to come that we know, because around the greater New York area, we're both, if you guys don't know, we're both originally from Connecticut, and we've got friends and family that are within travel distance to come and see a real premiere. So it'd be nice to have people come to this project that's near and dear to our hearts, and we'd be there to basically be on the
and it is
carpet.
There's the documentary has strong ties to New York City, especially because it talks about Kim's Video and most of those video stores and Trauma. So there's a strong New York tie. So we're hoping that'll work. But yeah, so to date, I can look at this real quick. We're at 90% selection rate. I can just talk through it, I guess.
Yeah. Okay.
We have a 90% selection rate. We have 9 selections. And actually, as of last night, we have 4 awards.
Oh, I was off. I thought it was 3 and 7. That's 4 and 9. Wow. That's awesome.
Yeah, and one nomination. But I can talk through that a little bit.
Sure.
Well, at least a few of the... One of the coolest ones is the Louisiana Film Festival, Paris, France. We'd entered this a few times with the different projects, never won. But this time around, they screen in Paris and they screen in Greece. But they have a live YouTube event where they actually will show all the nominees and then they'll tell you the winner. So it's a real delight. I love it, because you're sitting wherever. You're sitting at home. You put it on the big screen, and the award ceremony stops. Live YouTube clip starts playing. Obviously it's edited, but it's live for us.
Right.
And then they play the winner, and the award ceremony maybe takes a half an hour. And again, I was like, I don't think we're nominated. I don't think we won anything. And then bam, feature length doc comes up, and boom, we win. So it's
that was awesome.
That was really great. Independent Horror Movie Awards. We won best feature, actually, which basically beating out the narrative horror films, which is kind of a big deal because, our type of doc it does kind of fit well into a horror film festival because so many of the films and people involved are sort of genre based.
Right.
But to beat out the other horror films, that was pretty awesome. So that's what we got going on. We got some notifications coming up real soon. We got Cine Paris. Indie Cinema is where is that one out of? Rome, which is cool. They sent us a discount. No, they sent us a full waiver, which is great. Critics' Choice International Film Festival. Pittsburgh Independent. That one I'm really hoping for. They champion low budget films, and Pittsburgh's actually commutable. I could actually probably drive out to that one, which would be pretty cool. And the Underground Film Festival, that's coming up, and that's in Apopka, right? That's the one you attended previously, right?
Yeah, that was fun. That was a fun festival.
We also entered a number of top ones. I still can't get it out of my system. We still entered some top film festivals like Slam Dance and Rain Dance and Austin. So a number of other ones.
My fingers will be cramped for a year,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So we'll have to see. But
can you speak to what you talked about last night that came through?
Yeah. So last night, what's exciting is if you enter like the amount of festivals we did, even though there's notification dates, sometimes things will just pop through. You think something's not going to come through to July, and then it comes through, and you're like, oh, this is really exciting. But the top indie Top Indie Film Festival Awards come in. That's an online competition, but it's one of these things like Independent Horror Film Awards. It's got like kind of a following, and it's kind of respected within the independent film circle. Mm-hmm. And so it came through, and we actually won Best Music, so win for Tim Kulig, and then we won Best Message, which was kind of cool.
Yeah, that was a unique category that I felt was, I don't know, it was a little more near and dear to my heart because it's a different flavor than like, okay, Best Picture or blah, blah. These are like standard things. But like Message screams to me, Tom, that not only was this message seen, but it was received. Like the message in the movie was received. And if they really honestly feel that warrants a category like that and it warranted us winning it, then I think we hit the mark, at least with that group, you know?
Yeah,
for sure.
I think, yeah, it's a great category. And it means that someone really watched it and really got it, really liked it. And so it's great. And we still got a nomination for Best Documentary Feature, so that was still cool. But they decided to give us Best Message. I'm like, that's awesome. And so it's exciting. I think 90% selection rate so far, doing really well, and it's gratifying. It's like essentially dedicated to my mom and dad, and it's got most of my friends in it throughout the years. Yeah. So we'll have to see.
That is something about independent film. You often carry the weight of those things with your friendships, and your friendships are what are a part of that journey. And it's because I can't afford to go out and hire Angelina Jolie or Matt Damon, you know what I mean? Oftentimes your extras and stuff are your friends and family, and you get lucky. You got a budget big enough that you can bring in somebody for day shoot or weekend or something, and pay somebody SAG rates and everything. And we started, as we progressed, we got to that point, right? Being able to entertain the idea of hiring on people that are more industry standard and require different requirements to be able to act with us and build whatever we're building.
Yeah, and in the doc, there's quite a bit of instruction in it. You know what I mean? You could watch that and glean a lot of good information. Mm-hmm. I mean, you could judge it for what it is. I'm pretty plain about things that I think were missteps. Mm-hmm. But then there's other things where clearly there's successes in regard to like being able to hire certain people. Like we hired Clint Howard, able to hire Jana Van Bargen from Seinfeld, and
Ellen Muth,
and a number of other people. So Debbie Rochon, yeah, and so I think it's a good tale, hopefully, and hopefully the bigger festivals will get it. I think no matter what, I think if we can, I'd like to screen the film in a minimum of 30 cities on real screens. I don't mean real. I mean real screens by meaning at least it's there's 10 people in the audience and there's a screen somewhere.
Yeah, and I think just to temper people's understanding and expectation of film festivals, like, not everything's Cannes, right? Like it's not, and not everything is like this giant theater. Like those are like the top 1% of film festivals where you see like a theater that's like even bigger than your local theater that you go and watch your MCU or Star Wars films at in THX theaters or whatever. Like we're talking, those are enormous. They're meant to be premier theaters and everything else, but the vast majority of film festivals are just that. They're festivals, and they have multiple things going on at a time, and the seating capacity can be limited, but that doesn't limit the scope of or value of the films that are in it. There's some films that are played in some of those things. I've gone to film festivals and I'm like, my God, who is this person and why aren't they famous right now? Because this is
for sure
amazingly done.
I remember Debbie Rochon talked about Model Hunger. She's like, we would go anywhere that had a screen and seats and half a dozen people or something like that. And I really do feel that way. That's how John Waters started his career. These kind of underground screenings, like in basements and stuff. And so I think I don't care. It's like, what if it's a Holiday Inn conference room or some area, like some people convert places to bar, and they'll do a film night or something. I mean, that's not exactly ideal unless it's like dedicated to the film festival, but that all that kind of stuff, that's great. If it's a medium-sized festival, usually they'll have at least one or two major, like a movie theater screening,
right?
Even if it's a smaller hometown kind of movie theater, which I actually kind of prefer versus like a Cineplex.
Yeah, for sure.
And then a lot of the times they'll have secondary screenings. Sometimes it's like at the library, or sometimes it's at like a venue, to the side over here. So I don't mind that stuff either,
Yeah. No, there's something to be said about that, the intimacy of it, because it's a smaller group, and what you get in a smaller group oftentimes are people that legitimately want to come see independent art. They are there because they want to be, not because they have to be, right? And oftentimes they can talk directly with the creators in like a Q&A afterwards. I mean, that was an example of Apopka, that film festival. Impromptu was able to stand up and speak to American Expendables and talk about our process, and I had some really poignant questions from the audience, like, how do you guys come up with these ideas? Like, this is a very unique documentary about a very unique subset of the movie industry. Like, what inspired you guys to do this? And we're like, well, yeah, it was an evolution, and I went on the whole thing, like, we started doing a podcast, and we got to a certain point and we're like, I don't know if we've got a story here or not. So we kind of like let it sit for a little while, and then we came back to it like, you know what? I'm going to put this together, Tim. I'm going to put this in a timeline and see what we got. And then you showed me. I'm like, dude, there's something here. Let's finish this thought and get it out there. And it resonated. It did very well.
It really did. I mean, it's definitely not for everyone, but like, again, we put that one through the festivals. You were like, let's do this, and I was very unsure. I was like, well, maybe one or two, and then I think you're like, let's do. I don't know what we did, almost 40, I think, and we won like we won stuff I never would have thought we won. San Francisco Indie Fest, another hole in the head. We won Best Doc, a Gold Telly, the High Award. Yeah, I mean,
well,
it just...
I think the thing about that was that the poignancy was, has anybody looked at this? I mean, how many documentaries have been done about, like, Star Wars, or why am I drawing a blank on, like, big things? Like, I don't know, like...
Yeah.
Like
Marvel, Jurassic Park. I don't know.
Some major zeitgeist thing that, like, everybody thinks about and everybody's interested in, and it's been done ad nauseum. Nobody really touched the martial arts era movies that came out of that studio. What was this? I've drawn a blank on it for the moment.
Oh yeah, North American Pictures.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, like I was a fan of, Not Quite Hollywood was about Aussie films, which had like Mad Max and all these films in them. And then there was a Canon one on Canon Films. I love that one too. And if you think about those docs, they'll show like a Chuck Norris movie here and there. And I remember thinking like, I saw that movie, Invasion USA, I saw that, and those they're not spectacular, but like that doc that took like a sort of a poo-poo platter of the films, like in a really nice way, took some of the coolest parts about it and made this, collage, and made this documentary, which sort of gave the whole catalog soul,
Right.
I think people really love that. They love that type of, like, it's more than curation. It's a directed documentary with all your music and everything. But like, I can see how that would be appetizing. Like, I don't think I want to watch these 50 movies, but I definitely would watch an hour-long doc that is like a sampler. I mean, that sounds super fun,
Yeah, and then it highlights some of the really poignant parts of those movies, and then you can make a decision for yourself. You're like, oh yeah, I've seen this around before. After watching this documentary, I think I'm going to revisit, watching A, B, or C, because it's reminded me that at some point it piqued my interest, and now I really want to watch it, and that's in essence a way to keep independent film and independent cinema, or even older cinema that's kind of found its way into the annals of history, alive, basically, and get people to revisit these pieces that, I mean, look, everybody wants the big pretty picture and bow thing of today, high action, high special effects, blah blah blah, but there's been like recent, I'll go back and watch My Dinner with Andre, because of the interesting conversation they had. Like most people today, if you don't know what that is, it's Wallace Shaw and I forget the other actor's name, but literally sitting down to dinner and having an existential, not existential, but like a very like, I guess it is. It's like one of them was having an existential crisis about his life and where he was at in it. And the other gentleman, that was Wallace Shaw's character. And then the other gentleman is literally like, dude, like everything about what we do and about existence is amazing. The fact that we're even here, and like he touches on like all these aspects of human nature and like existence and the universe. And in 90 minutes, you see this dichotomy of like one person going through the grind and just like 9 to 5, working for, living for the weekend, and then starting that pattern over and over and over again. And this other guy being like life and existence and this thing we call being human is so much more than that. And you just have to stop and smell the roses every once in a while and understand that, like, create, love, it just like movies like that just blow me away. And it's like, yeah, some people don't see that necessarily, but I honestly, I'm a better person for watching that movie. And I think more, you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's definitely a good one. It, truly independent and, great performances, and but also made it a time where people had an appetite for that, and frankly, like the gatekeeping was pretty severe, where it could, because essentially someone's got to put up cash, what I mean? Mm-hmm. And so there ends up being like, that ends up being a filter, the cash wall. And so I think to some degree it meant probably a larger percentage of movies were better. Now I think we have more films. I'm all about low budget and no budget. In the studio system makes 99% garbage. Some good stuff sneaks through, but it's almost by accident.
Right. And let's predicate that on the fact that one of the main goals of the studio system is to make money for its shareholders. So yeah. That's part of the challenge with American cinema in general. And it's not just American cinema, it's cinema all around, is that it needs to hit those revenue sticking points. And if it doesn't, then a lot of things don't get greenlit anymore. Nobody takes chances like that anymore, unless it's independent and it's little to no budget, in which case you don't always guarantee you're going to have a person or persons in the film that are going to create the draw that you're looking for. It's this weird self-fulfilling prophecy, right?
Yeah.
And it's unfortunate because there's plenty of good stories out there to be had that, again, come back down to gatekeeping and come down to the fact that nobody's going to be out negative for something that, even if it's worthwhile, it just sucks, So people churn out the thing that they know people are going to love. Let's do a 5th sequel to freaking The Lion King because people are going to come see it. You know?
Yeah,
and
frankly,
goddamn story.
Even the streaming sites, they don't make much that's good. Netflix mostly buys really good stuff and then ruins it. And Apple TV's got like maybe one good show. HBO's got 1 or 2 good shows. They're usually pretty good. So I don't know, keep independent film alive. And I think we just got to keep going. I will say, if this one doesn't hit big, Tim, it's not like we're not going to do like another American Expendables or find some other project. We're actually working on something now, like a pilot. But I don't know. If that one doesn't hit, then I have no answers. I don't know what possibly could propel you or I to any next level of filmmaking if this one doesn't work.
Well, here's the other thing, too. This is a great segue into one of the other categories I wanted to talk about today before we stop talking today, and that is burnout, right?
Yeah.
That's when you're creating and you're in the creative space, you focus in on like one project. Like this project we've been focused on for over 2 years now, right?
Yeah.
So there is creative burnout when it comes to that. By the time we get to the festival circuit and we're focused on that, we're focused on promoting it, and then the anticipation of whether or not it's going to resonate with the festival and it's going to get an official selection, and then is it going to get an award? And it's this constant anticipation of how many hits we're going to get, blah, 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 and everything. And the official selections and the anticipation of that is like every official selection is an opportunity for it to screen at another place, because we don't have a huge studio behind us putting it in 1,000 theaters for a month, right? This is the way we get it in people's faces.
Yeah, but yeah, we could frankly pay a couple grand and and premiere, like I said, premiere in 30, 40, 50 cities around the world.
Right.
And then there'll be some knowledge. Certainly anyone who runs a even medium-sized film festival is to have them look at the film is helpful.
Yep.
And then when you hit streaming, you have those two things. You have a small theater run via film festivals. Then you're streaming, you promote through streaming. And then actually, which is something that, took 30 years to learn, is that that's actually a good time to do physical media.
Yeah.
Because, and given it's the way things are now, I don't know if that was true 5 years ago, 10 years ago. But the truth is, your film has to have some level of fame for them to want to do a physical release of it.
Right.
So
nobody's going to front the recoup on 1,000 Blu-ray run of a movie, thinking they're not going to make their money back or at least break even, right?
Yeah.
And if they break even, they're probably not going to do it again. So they got to make some money, even small potatoes amount of money, but enough money to know that, like, hey, these guys, when they put out stuff, enough people come out and want to buy it. So that's a different universe than 20 years ago, Tom. Like 20 years ago with the video stores and the video store era, even though it was the tail end of it, it was still like yeah, make sure you have it on physical media. People are going to go to the video store and rent that. They're going to buy copies of that to have in their store.
Yeah. You know? Well, it really was like what, and you can get in deep into all this stuff, like people's, what's that called? Disposable income.
Yeah.
That was even different back then.
Yeah.
It's, but people used to literally go, what's out this week? And then they would buy it, Yeah. I mean, they're still out there, but that's not that cheap of an option these days.
No. No. And it's also not as accessible.
Yeah.
You don't have a whole section like you used to at Walmart or Target or any retail store dedicated to physical media like you used to. There's a select few, like the big movies.
Well, it's just not, if you want to call it a hobby, like watching, collecting sort of thing. It's just not as big as it used to be. Not only with physical media, just watching movies in general is like, yeah, people will throw stuff on. If, I deal with a lot of college-age students, and they definitely watch movies here and there, but I'd say their focus is sort of more all over the place. Some animation, shorts.
Yeah. Well, that's
stuff
the
like
consumption social media, right? Like a lot of the consumption
a lot of it,
social media.
A lot of it.
And that makes, I heard this the other day, and I don't know, I think it was, I was listening yesterday on the way home from visiting my daughter. I was listening to Joe Rogan, and he had, what's the British comedian that you and I both like? He's a little caustic. He does a lot of crowd work.
It's not Gervais. No.
Jimmy.
Jimmy Dore? No, Jimmy Carr.
Jimmy Carr. Yeah. Jimmy Carr was on, and they were talking about. They're all over the map. I haven't finished the episode yet, but one of the things that came up was like social media, and it's like you don't hear anybody being like, "Hey, you remember that TikTok from 2 years ago?" Nobody gives a fuck. Like 2 years, like no. It's like instant gratification consumption material. It's not long term, like nostalgic. Nobody's nostalgic about. There's exceptions. Like people go back and look at old vines that stimulated the TikTok era that we see today. But and those memes and those old things are funny. But nobody's really waxing philosophical about any of it. It's more just like a passing like dopamine hit.
Yeah.
Of funny. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's not like people don't care about the thing. I used to work for Black 20 back in the day, and one of the shows I used to work on, Greg Network. Greg Kistner did this animation. Greg Kistner did the whole thing, and it was like a meme. Don't be racist. Don't be racist. I am a building. Don't be racist. I am a building. Just like a catchy song where there's two people talking and the building turns around and it starts singing. And it became like a TikTok and Instagram meme, but like no one really cared about Black 20 or where it came from. It's kind of like that, you know the video of the guy who's smiling, but he looks in pain, he's like,
yeah,
like that's what it is. They don't care what the source was. It's just a meme. It's right. It is what it is. And it's delivering that message, it's an idea carried across time. But it's that microbite. There's nothing. No one cares about the show. They care about the microbite. So
I see that all the time, and people juxtapose that against their new content. Like there's this woman, I don't even know where it came from. It was probably during the Vine era. You can correct me if you know what it is. You're welcome to chime in. But there's a woman that comes on screen in this TikTok or reel or whatever, and she's like, "Say the weird thing."
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And I have no idea where that came from, but people use it all the time. As a trigger for the next part of their content. And it's like, I hope she's getting something for that because she's everywhere.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like people use that as a launching point for something. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
All the time.
Yeah, and I think they'll use it in different lengths. Say the weird. She's got this pretty Southern accent. Say the weird thing. People are starved for something. Or some people say the weird thing and they'll cut out. So they use it in all these different ways. Yeah. So, but yeah, it's like that. I would actually say I'm more interested in where the origin of that than some of the other stuff. Yeah. But there's all sorts of weird memes like that where you don't really care where it came from. It's just obscure. That's the randomness is the delight.
There's this woman I think she's in Illinois somewhere, not Chicago either. It's like some suburb area, and it's this Asian woman that has a breakfast place, and her name's Judy, and she uses really smart social media juxtapositions of like something really really popular at the moment or something funny, and like somebody throws a pie at somebody's face and she's like she has the reaction, there's like a good cut, and she's like, "I'm Judy, come to my breakfast place, I have pancakes, blah blah blah," and she'll be walking and everything. It's awesome.
Oh yeah, I've seen that.
Awesome marketing. It's some of the best marketing online I've ever seen.
She'll get hit in the face with a fish or
It
That's
is
great.
so good. And she has full disclosure, she has a loose understanding of the English language, or at least it's conveyed that way in the context of the stuff, which all of that, everything they do with the content makes it perfect. It's gold. I want to fly there and be a patron of her product just based on her social media. I'm like, that sold me. I don't know why. It just, but that's not easy to do, and it's memorable. You know what I mean? Will it be memorable in 2 years though? I don't know.
I don't know either. But I do think that, I mean, the thing that bothered me about studio films, they're always grabbing for younger audience because it's like teenagers and stuff like that, because they're so worried about being irrelevant. But what they did is they alienated the people that usually go, which is it's a lot of dads and it's a lot of families, and it's a lot of middle-aged people. It's not actually the teenagers that go to films that much. There's a big chunk, but it's not all of them. And so they're you look at all the attendance is down, stuff like that. And then they could have concentrated on just making really good kids content. Really good Disney movies and animated movies, Pixar movies. Get the politics out of it, but just make really good stories that people are obsessed with. Yeah. You'll get your audience there, and then you can do... I would actually say, I feel like, I mean, maybe Hollywood has always been obsessed with the sort of getting the teenagers in the door. Because I suppose growing up in the 80s, a lot of those movies, you think of all the high school movies and stuff like that. I suppose that happened.
John Hughes films alone,
Yeah, but I think the difference is a lot of the teenagers now are not interested. So where is your audience? Actually look at what your audience is. Because if you look at Barbie and Oppenheimer, total dad movie, killed at the box office. Barbie, total mom movie, killed at the box office. But
summer they were basically, those are the blockbusters.
Yeah.
And what was it? The Guardians of the Galaxy 3.
Yeah.
I think just because a lot of those characters were plucky and fun.
It had a good track record.
Yep.
And that was kind of the last of the good Marvel movies. So it was kind of like a song almost to Marvel. That could literally be the last good Marvel movie.
Yeah, because its predecessor earlier in the season, like a month before, was Quantumania, and it tanked.
It tanked, yeah.
It was 99% CGI.
Yeah.
And I think I think that just didn't resonate with it. As crazy, like it was ambitious, right?
Yeah.
Let's give it a little counter love, which is it was very ambitious. It was a realm that is non-existent, and the vast majority of the movie they spent in it. And that suspension of disbelief in movies, I think, just like in a horror movie, you need comic relief. Just like in a drama, you need comic relief. Somebody can't just be sucked into one state of being and mind for 2.5 hours and not get a break. And I feel like that movie never gave you a break, and it also didn't land narratively where it needed to as well. So those two things just kind of like, they kind of killed it for me.
Well, dude, I got to go on a podcast recently on Greg from Fanzine had Tom Connors from Midnight Edge.
Okay.
And he brought up a very good point about Quantumania. He said there's been a number of Marvel movies where the special effects have not been great. Like, they're okay. But the story is so good that you don't care. And I think that's totally true. Yeah. There's Marvel movies in generally, they do not have top tier special effects. You want top tier, you go to like James Cameron or that guy Blumkamp who did District what was it called? District 9.
Yeah.
There's some top tier stuff, but it's not Marvel. Marvel's never been top tier special effects. It's been really interesting story and fun. But Quantumania, the story sucked. So then, and the special effects suck. So now that's all you're seeing. It's like you stop paying attention to the story and you look around for a minute. You're like, God, this looks like crap.
What am I watching?
Yeah. So that's part of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, because was it there was that show that spun off that they didn't even have on Disney Plus, and it was that disembodied head that like floats around.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. I forget his name.
It starts with an M,
Monarch or Monarch something.
Yeah,
something like that.
Something like that. Let's see. That's how immaterial it is to me. I don't even want to remember it. But the spinoff that was on Hulu, horrible. Never felt like I watched 3 or 4 episodes thinking like, I'm gonna give it a shot, and I'm like, I just want to puke in my suit. I don't want anything to do with this. And that character was in Quantumania and looked super fakey.
Yo, it looked bad. Yeah, I was like, is it Moloch? Let me look it up.
Mordock?
It's yeah. You know what? Who cares?
Mordock.
Who gives a shit?
Morduk? Something like that?
I think that's. Yeah. Let's just say that it is.
It
is not worth even looking up. Sorry.
I mean, original, Avengers arc, right, where they show the Hulk in the mech suit in the Endgame. His face was super fakey.
Yeah.
But there was like this suspension of disbelief at that point, because this was the culmination of 10 fucking years of really good story making and decent special effects and the Tony Stark timeline and all that stuff, and you're just like, that's fine. I'll get, like, that had to have been one of the most difficult things to have to try to figure out to do, and I'll give that to you. Like, I don't know what that is in my brain, but there's times with movies I'm just like, yeah, I'll give you a pass on that, because I'm more interested in the story than I am about, psychoanalyzing that, and that the lighting is a little off, and the way his head is moving around in there, it looks fake because of the position. Like, you could have done that better. You could have spent more money there, but they're like, dude, we gotta spend money on all these other actors. Like, everybody came back, so we owe all these people money, and we just spent $300 million, It's like, okay.
Yeah. It's a mess. So you gotta hope that all of this opens the door a little bit to low budget filmmaking, because they are not making as much as they used to, and they may never. And so we'll see what happens.
I think that's a fact. Physical media and the distribution networks that used to exist do not. So they will not make as much. And the barrier of entry to get those movies now is not what it used to be. Like, it's much easier to get it. Like, if somebody wants to get a movie with the internet the way it is today and the bandwidth that they have, they'll just take it. Somebody has it like a day after it's released to streaming or physical media. It's online. I mean, case in point was like a decade and a half ago. You did a physical release of one of the earlier movies. Like, it was on there. It was on there 24 hours later on like a download site. Like, just like that.
Right away. Yeah.
And so people have zero tolerance and zero patience for the delivery system that existed in the 80s and 90s, which was, okay, it's pay-per-view, and then it's going to be home video in the form of the video stores, which you can't get access to yet. You know, it's direct to them because it's not sell-through, so it's 70 hours of tape, blah, blah, blah. You know what I mean? Like that's all gone. That's all gone. The studio system, how much do you think they made back then? They made so much money. There was like 12 steps to all that.
You wonder, like, Joe Bob Briggs talks about, like, the actual, I forget the term he used, but let's call it portal. Like, so Netflix is like a portal, and ultimately they do make their own content. They make it poorly for the most part, except for maybe Stranger Things. But they'll do that as long as it's like profitable and it makes sense to do. But ultimately, they're a portal. They'll take good content from wherever they can get it. And so they'll be around at other portals like that. Amazon they'll be around as long as Bezos wants them to be. They could never gain profit. As long as Bezos thinks it's cool to have that Prime wing, he will.
Right. And it's part of the whole mix, right?
Yeah.
You sign up for Prime, you get all that stuff.
And so it's worth it. And same thing with Apple TV. They make their money on phones. They don't make their money on streaming. They lose money on streaming, probably. But they're still a portal, and they'll take content. Like our stuff's on Apple TV. American Expendables.
Yeah.
It's on Apple TV. Probably Fleet Marriage is on there, too. And so, point being, if most of these industries out in Los Angeles, they realize, like, there's just no money to be had. Like no matter what we do, we can only recoup, like, max 20 grand. Okay, they're all out of business. But people like you and me, we'll do it, you know? And so you have to wonder what will happen.
Well, maybe the same thing that happened in social media is going to happen to the movie industry. You know, you have the rise of the independent social media content creator that gets better and better at their content, you know, has more refined, you know, whole setup back here. Meanwhile, I got this thing here, you know, has this whole setup and stuff going on, and, you know, gets better and better at that, higher quality, higher production value. The next thing you know, they're making content and making feature-length content for these various platforms and everything that does well, and then they pay them accordingly. You know what I mean? You get your streaming revenue, you get your physical media revenue, you get your all this. And for people like you and me, we don't need to make $100 million to break even and then make a profit. You know, when we bootstrap the things that we create, man, our profit point is a hell of a lot lower than the studio system and what that bloat is. So, I think we're looking at an evolution.
I hope so. I mean, you know, I'm never going to make back the, like, year and a half of editing. You know,
right.
I'll never make that back. I mean, that's like some people get paid 40 grand per feature, you know?
Right.
But that's okay. I do it because I love it.
Right.
You know, so even if if we made 5 grand on Video Dreams, I'd be more than happy because that would, you know, pay for all my materials and all of the film festival and promotion, and then maybe even squeak out like $1 grand or $2 grand, you know? It's great. I'm just going to dump it into the next thing anyway.
Right.
You know?
Right. And that's the purity of the way that independent film is done too, is that for the most part, I mean, I think if you go in with a profit motivation, you've already shot yourself in the creative foot, because now you're compromising yourself out of the gate. Like, if you want to make a good thing, let's just make a good thing. And I don't really care what it costs. If it's within a budget that we predetermine, then fine. You know, like, this is our deal. This is what we decide what we're going to spend and what we're going to put into it, and then this is what we're going to put into it to promote it, and then we're going to see if it gets legs.
Yeah,
you know? And
then first of all, what we're doing is we're betting on ourselves, and we're putting out independently, and we get direct revenue from whatever happens.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a hell of a lot better than working with a studio. Also, imagine, like, you're a young filmmaker, you graduate from a very expensive film school, you have all the opportunity, and you're given a project for some reason. You know, you're given a studio project. It's probably not going to be, you're probably not going to have any freedom to do anything you want to do.
Mm-hmm.
The odds that it's actually something that lines up directly with what you want to do, very low. And you may realize that the director is, like, actually not the creative head in a studio project that large. And so I look at it at, 48 years old, 48 and a half, and I'm looking at it like, I don't think I'd even want to do that at this point,
Yeah.
It's
the
okay
compromise alone, right?
Yeah.
The compromise alone would be creatively. I don't want to say like, I don't want to go so far as to say I've crystallized in my ability to like be open to different paths of creativity, because I'm not.
No, but I have done that at CBS, NBC, IGN, Black 20, all this stuff. Been pushed buttons.
Yep. To
make other people's stuff. I've done that. I did that for years into my 30s. So at least I can say enough. You would a young person, you would hope, could do that at least for 10 years to gain skill and experience, even though it would be hard to stomach. But for me, I'm done. By the time I was like 30, 32, 33, I was like, I'm not doing this anymore,
Yeah, yeah. Well, and that's about the time that you joined academia, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So that gave you now in academia and through tenure, like the whole idea is you're going to create what you want to create and also add value to the next generation of students that are going to study and build a craft similar to yours.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
I'm more on the new media side, but still editing and design, video editing and shooting, and some video game design for sure.
Yeah, but the core component of that, the creative aspect.
Oh yeah, the artistic mission. Yeah. Because even if you're in game design, I'm like, don't get me wrong. Like, if you can work for a big game company, just try to do it. Try to do it for a couple of years. Like, get as much as experience as you can. Big corporations, all that stuff. But at some point, you may want to just make your own stuff and publish it.
Yeah. I mean, it's at a point now where with those studios, even some of the bigger ones have struggled immensely with some AAA titles, even too. I mean, nobody's immune. Nobody's immune. The next generation's coming up. They have zero tolerance for anything mediocre. And what was happening in the video game industry is it was becoming a standard to release a game that should have been finished and refined, but in essence, they're giving you their day one is like a decent beta.
Yeah, and they want to debug it live.
Yeah.
We're testers. The audience is the tester, And
they're like that inauthenticity of and that blatant slap in the face of your customer is what turned off a ton of people to certain games. Like there was a release, oh my god, it was like super ambitious. There was something, it was either Microsoft, I think it was Microsoft recently. They had some release that within 2 weeks they pulled it from every store. It never had more than like 600 or 700 concurrent players. Yeah. It was first person.
That was
shooter.
Ubisoft, wasn't it? Yeah.
It was like
a Fortnite knockoff. Yeah.
It was an epic failure,
and
it was
we can't remember the name of it. No. I mean, that's the thing. It had a generic name.
Yeah. There was a lot of things against it, but dude, I think the project was like a $200 million, and within 2 weeks they're just like, nope, servers are gone. The game was pulled. I forget what it was called. Are you finding it?
Yeah, it was. I can't even find it. Ubisoft game pulled.
I don't know if it was Ubisoft. It might have been Microsoft. Which would be a huge miss on their part. Which means nobody's immune, Tom. Nobody's immune to that. Some of the biggest studios. I mean, Microsoft's a huge studio. It's freaking Halo,
Yep. Let's see. 2020. Was it last year or this year?
Last year, I think.
I see the picture for it. Where is it?
This has got any text
Suicide Kill Bomb, Skull and Bones, Alone.
That was another one that was kind of
Concord.
That's it.
Concord.
Yeah.
Again, so generic.
Yeah. Yeah, it said nothing to me, but I mean, it also was trying to get into a space that is already pretty crowded, right?
Yeah.
If you don't play Call of Duty, and you don't play Fortnite, and you don't play a couple other first persons, like how many more do people want to learn? How many more battle royales are you going to release? It's just at some point it's like, well, double down on the ones that exist and wait for the next iteration and versions to come out. Because that's the whole idea behind Epic's Fortnite, is that they'll do a new map, they'll do new themes throughout the season, and then in the next season they'll do other things, they'll cross promote and everything. They got really smart and really good at that. And
yeah, well, I finally beat Far Cry 4, which took me forever at my pace Tim apparently beat it in like, it seemed like a matter of weeks. I don't know how long it was.
Of course, this is the second time I played it.
But, right, second time through. But I got that cleared off, so I think I want to jump back on the Fortnite horse, maybe unranked, casual. Tim and I both got elite status of like 6 months ago, maybe. And
As
once
a middle-aged man, I felt like that was quite the accomplishment. Even though I had to do, like, hiding behind mountains just to get there, right?
There's cheating going on.
Oh, like an amazing amount.
In that ranked, the cheating is real. I had to not only hide, I had to hide under, like, ground level. I
And
swear
still got hit.
Yeah.
And still got hit.
Yeah.
I did that on 2 or 3 occasions where I know I was invisible. I did not. Nobody had line of sight of me in the air, like behind the mountain, for example. There's no reason why anybody should have seen me back there. And I was at a spot on the map where, like, imagine a circle like this, and I'm right on this edge, and it's nowhere near where anybody else would have been. And it's early enough in the game, early enough in the remainder that nobody's coming over there. Why would you go over there? Why would you think anybody's there?
Yeah.
Right? And like one shot. That's it.
Yeah.
And
Headshot.
I'm just
200 points.
Yeah. No way. I was maxed out and
Yeah.
like underneath some kind of embankment. And I'm like, there's no way.
Yeah.
It's
It's like they got auto aim. They got the I think they could just see. I think they just have everyone's lit up. Like you're like bright yellow to them or something.
Yeah.
They have like cheats with infrared and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I know I've seen some of the legitimate cheats. Like they're insane. But like people leave anytime you move, a cloud is left behind you and it stays there.
So you can just chase the cloud and know where they are.
Yeah.
I'm sure that happened to me.
Yeah,
It
probably.
happened to me. You know? I mean, I guess that's the middle ground. Where we ended up is the middle ground where probably the platform, there's so many people rampantly doing that on the platform. They can't police it. So until you get to like the ultra elite, whatever that category is called, they kind of just leave it alone and wait it out. So all those people battle it out, and then ultimately at that level, you can't pull that shit because they're gonna just boot you forever. Because there was that whole thing for a while where there was these Twitch streamers and major competitors and stuff like that were like they got loose with their stuff and weren't really private about it, and then all of a sudden like they got lazy and somebody saw on their stream and they're like, dude, I see what you're doing.
You're caught. You cheated.
And you got called out, and then everybody bails on them, and like this years of building this reputation gone in a matter. Like integrity, dude, it comes back down to integrity.
Yeah.
Like you either are good at what you do and prove it, prove your mettle, or something like that comes out and shows you your true colors, and then you're a has-been. Nobody wants to know who you are ever again,
Yep. But I think there was, what is there, 2 levels above elite, right? It's like Unreal or something, and
Like Champion and Unreal.
Champion
like
and
that.
Unreal, I think, yeah. But when I got to elite, I was like, that's it, dude. Because it was like, it's platinum, then diamond. 3 levels of platinum, 3 levels of diamond, then elite. I was like,
it felt
Get it.
impossible. How
Get
many
it.
times I got knocked down in like level 3 to like a high level 2.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, oh my God,
yeah.
am I ever going to win this? And like you win like 3%, 7% more each match.
Inching up.
Yeah.
You have one bad game, minus 10.
Yeah. And I try to go in there and be aggressive. No way. Everybody that comes out of the gate is super aggressive.
Dude, you get shot out of the sky, like it's bad. But yeah, unranked Fortnite, I'm up for it,
I'm down to play again. And that's what happens with us too, is like we'll step away from a co-op game for a while because it gets too repetitious and we kind of get burnt out by it. And then like we do this other thing. Like we literally Far Cry 4 was a $6 bargain basement game that I'm like, oh, this got co-op in it. We should do that.
I could not believe how good it looked. And then, it really looks, it's like Far Cry 6 was like 5 or 10% better. That's it. Far Cry 4 is gorgeous. They obviously upscaled it. And then I read an article that said just recently they converted it to 60 frames a second.
Yeah.
So
and it was night and day.
Yeah.
It was definitely, it changed gameplay like 100%. 100%.
The clarity was so, you're really looking into the screen at that point. Because if you think every, double the frames, it elevates clarity. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
well, back to the studios that make these games, Tom. There's supposed to be 1, maybe 2 iterations of it coming out next fall. Not 2025, but 2026. We'll know literally within weeks because E3 is like right around the corner, right? If it's not already happening.
mm-hmm.
I think it's like the first week of June or something. But there'll be announcements. I imagine there'll be announcements there. We already know GTA is coming, but it's been delayed till next spring. But Rockstar will not let their creme de la creme come out and have it be flawed. They will not make that mistake.
Oh, because they will. They'll get eaten alive.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
You talk about how fast people could turn. If it's not great, and then they try to do something where the online is kind of like replaced with the new one, it's like they're cutting like cutting the throat of $1 billion like a year industry or something
Plus,
like that.
Easy, because the in-game purchases, that's what pays for everything. I mean, Fortnite is a free game that makes billions a year, billions of dollars. Did you hear about that thing with Apple recently? That this is complete non sequitur, but what they were doing was they were charging people for in-app purchases that they're 30%. And so when you're using what is it, Facebook or Instagram, and you go to run an ad, you'd have to pay an extra 30%.
No way.
Or
Apple.
if you've got a Patreon that you're signing up, 30% of it is going to go to them, right? Well, they lost a lawsuit recently, and now they can't do anything with the in-app portion. So if it's a free app and there's in-app stuff, they have to leave it alone. So Epic, I wonder if that means that Fortnite's going to make its way back to iOS. They're fighting it, so they're probably going to wait to see if the determination's going to stick. But
that's like gangster, man. That's really like unethical.
Yeah,
really?
I don't like, because there's no you're already getting the value from the platform, right? So if the app costs you or doesn't cost you, it's irrelevant. Like if the person's offering that for free up front. See, the counter argument from the corporate side is, well, you're making it free so you can make all your money over here and we don't get a cut of it, so fuck off. If you want to be on our platform, you're going to have to pay the 30%. So if I put my corporate hat on that doesn't think about human nature and like what makes sense ethically, I'd be like, oh yeah, that makes sense. It really doesn't, because in most cases, like the ones I cited, they're unique situations where like the Patreon, like, why are you taking money away from this person that's supporting an artist, an independent artist? You're going to take 30% of it just because they signed up through an app on your platform? Like, go away.
Well, I mean, I think this is kind of a broader point, but it's like if you look at what happened in the United States, everyone wants a pound of flesh, and just a middle class person, which is the powerhouse, it's the engine of the whole country, is the middle.
Yeah, we're the ones that pay all the taxes.
You cannot charge a subscription for everything. You cannot gouge on everything. Like, look at. I don't want to change the subject to cars, but just as an example, no one can afford a new car right now. Okay, that's why someone's waking up and trying to make sub $20,000 cars again.
Mm-hmm.
But the middle class has just been like gouged to death, like co-pays, even if you have insurance, medical stuff. Everyone wants a piece of you for everything, and it can't go on forever. I mean, we were talking about disposable income. That's why a lot of this stuff's happening. Like if you looked at the reduction in disposable income, it's gone way down.
Yeah. Yeah. This software as a service thing is just driving me nuts. It's why I don't do that with my music. I'll find a way on the back end to make the revenue that I want to make. Asking somebody up front for $20 a month to have access to my catalog, well, I'm going to alienate 99% of the people that would want to use my music in the first place.
And probably a good portion of the people that are using your music don't make a dime,
Right. They're trying to build a channel or a platform or a body of work that will eventually get to the point where it's making some money, but it's not even in the places you think. Like, it used to be like, oh, if I just get monetized on YouTube, I can get some ad revenue. Well, they don't freaking pay like they used to, so that doesn't really matter anymore, The only thing is that once you reach that tier, you attract sponsors, you attract, affiliates and stuff like that. So it does have a value in the sense of the third party extension of potential revenue streams, but it doesn't have the value it had, say, 15 years ago, when you have a video that goes viral for a couple million and you make $7,000, you know, like that doesn't happen. It does not happen anymore.
Yeah.
It's just, it's funny how those platforms attract people with that lucrative payout to generate a lot of views and a lot of traction and a lot of engagement. And then when everybody's there, it's like okay, it's only the highest performing people that we're going to reward at this point. And you guys, you know, just like what Netflix did with the independent film industry. Yeah, we want to load up our platform. We're going to support you guys and we appreciate you, blah, blah. Then when the studio system played ball, they're like, see you later.
Yeah.
You know, it's weird.
Yeah, that's no fun.
Let's not leave a downer, though.
Yeah, man. So if you need music for your projects, check out. Is it Tim Kulig freemusic.com or timkulig.com?
timkulig.com, timkuligfreemusic.com. There's a whole
beautiful
bunch of
new
URLs
site
that push to it.
Yeah, I would check it out. It's a gorgeous website. Everything's hosted on there. It's really nice. And then if you're interested in our films, you can watch. This is why I love Tubi. They're almost all on Tubi.
That's great.
You know. Yeah, that's all I got.
Yeah, me too, man. I'm going to take a short break and probably get something else to eat, and then I got to get back to
tweaking,
filming some more stuff.
Gotcha.
So wish me luck. It's turning out to be far more work than I thought it was going to be, but this is the learning curve stage of things. This is kind of like when I first started publishing things to like DistroKid and like getting it up on sites where you can get access to my music before I had my own site supported, you know, supporting downloads and everything else. Everything felt like an epic task. And now that's second nature. I don't even blink. I blink, I get things published, they're done. Once they're done, you know. But I'm at that stage with this where I'm like, I got to do 5 to 10 of these, and then it'll be like, oh yeah, here's my setup, blah blah blah. I know what I have to mark out for time. You know, it's that the hardest thing is starting, right? Like the hardest part of any task is showing up and starting. Mm-hmm. And once you start doing that, consistency and discipline with doing that, everything just starts to open up. So we'll keep you posted. But it's to come down the pipeline pretty soon. Well, from the Tim Kulig Free Music Podcast and Tom Seymour, we thank you for showing up today and checking us out. And we'll talk to you again real soon.